Team, welcome back to the Art of Performance podcast, episode 44. And today we're going to be diving deep into the exciting world of program variation. And if you joined us on episode 43, we went through the secret sauce of programming. And we spoke about all of the aspects that pertain to progressive overload, where we looked at increasing reps, increasing sets, playing around with volume and intensity and range of movement. And we started to discuss how those play an effect when we're trying to adapt to the training that we are doing. And today, we're going to go deep down in that programming hole. So, if you've ever wondered why you're hitting plateaus, how to keep your workouts fresh, how to keep them challenging, how to keep them exciting, today's episode is your roadmap to doing that. And I'm going to go through some exciting stuff with you today, especially if you're a fitness enthusiast, and it will absolutely help you move in the right direction. So remember those early days, the days when you started working out, the enthusiasm, the results, the quick results, the thrill and excitement of each and every session. You were just consistently hitting it in the gym, and things were changing in the direction that you wanted them to. Over time, we often find that we just get caught in this routine. And that routine, whether it be 3, 6, 9, 12 months down the line, loses its excitement. We have to be both physically and mentally stimulated when it comes to training. And that is where program variation comes to the rescue. Program variation is such a powerful tool that you can use. I'm going to give you some great examples today that you can go away with and start playing around with. Because here's the big deal. Our bodies are fucking exceptional at adapting. Humans, over the years of evolution, we have continued to adapt to the environment that we're in front of us. It's exactly the same in any given workout. And over time, your body just turns around and says, hey, sunshine, I fucking got this. This is easy. And we find ourselves in that space. And this is where growth slows down. It's where those gains aren't necessarily made. And mentally, let's be fucking real, guys and girls. Doing the same thing over and over and over again is as dull as fuck. It doesn't need to be dull. It doesn't need to be boring. Sometimes it might have to be boring. Variation isn't just a physical change in what we're programming, but it's also a mental dynamite that we have to consider. And I'm going to take you through some incredible ways that you can do that today. So let's go into today's deep dive and get into the meat and potatoes of our podcast. So the episode today, first up, we need to talk about single sets and multiple sets. It is not a versus matter. Single sets versus multiple sets. No. One set might seem neat, but multiple sets, well, that's where the magic might happen. And it completely depends on the context of the individual. But a single set is often used in a higher intensity training bout. And the theory is to push the muscle beyond its limit in one absolute all or nothing set. People might refer to this as an AMRAP set, and as many reps as possible set. It's time efficient, and it might help those of you that are in that space where time is something that is a barrier for you. So a 30, 40-minute session where we're hitting multiple areas could be a useful part of your time by doing a single set on each exercise. However, it's really important to note here, research suggests that multiple sets can lead to greater hypertrophy, so greater gains in muscle and also strength. So it's just a little bit of a consideration. It's not to say that you're not going to get change, because the changes aren't massively significant when it comes to overall health and wellness and health and performance, but it is something to consider. We then have multiple sets. Now, when we look at multiple sets, these are doing 3 or 4 sets of a bench press, for example, as opposed to one all-out set. And a one all-out set, for example, could be 70 kilos on the bar, and I'm just going to press as many repetitions as I can. And the most important thing to note here is I wouldn't recommend this for a beginner, unless there were some other constraints environmentally that we were going to discuss with time, because we want to try and build volume. This is the biggest thing. Because multiple sets provides a catalyst for greater volume, and this is a crucial factor when we talk about muscles adapting over time, it can allow for different intensities within a varied session. And we can work on technical proficiency in a lift. So, again, although multiple studies have shown increased muscle growth, strength, endurance, etc., using incorporation of multiple sets, it's important to note that it's not a one-size-fits-all. It's why I hate the argument of single set versus multiple set, because it depends. It depends on the human. It depends on the person. It really, really does. A busy working mum of 3 who's got 35, 40 minutes in the gym might benefit from a single set where she's built a little bit of time and learned about a little bit of training. She's got a bit of a training experience, whereas somebody who is a single mum, or maybe even a woman who doesn't have any commitments, bit of work, but she has an opportunity to go to the gym and do 90 minutes to 2 hours. That's where we might use a multiple set-based derivative. It just depends on loads of different factors. And these are things that we have to consider, ladies and gentlemen. So it's not a single versus multiple. The first one we're looking at is it's a combination of or a variety of those two. Number 2, agonist versus antagonist, or agonist and antagonist supersets. Now, I want you to think of this as a pairing of exercise. Okay, it's about teaming exercises up like Batman and Joker. 2 completely opposite ends. They oppose each other, but they make a great combo. This might be something like, for example, chest and glutes, or chest and hamstrings. We might do that. We might decide to go, I'm going to go back and quads, whatever those things might be, but it's where we pair up opposing muscles to make a great combination, a really good combination. An example of this could be you doing a leg press followed by some upper body movement that's centered around the chest, and we could do something along the lines of a dumbbell incline press. Now, why would you do this? Well, this method can enhance the efficiency of your workout. So by working on opposing muscles or muscle groups, one muscle can recover whilst the other one is being worked and used. And this not only just saves time, but it can lead to improved muscle balance. And to a degree, it could reduce the risk of injury to a degree, but that's not the be all and end all. It is about finding what works for you above all else. The third one, compound sets. Now, this isn't your squat, bench, and deadlift. Compound sets is let me put it to you this way. Compound sets are like, think of asking your muscle to sing its heart out in 2 different songs. Okay? The best way to think about this back-to-back variety. So what we might choose in the chest, for example, is we might go, right, I'm going to do a bench press, and to really push and induce fatigue, I'm going to then go and do a dumbbell bench press or a converging chest press where we're coming together. Converging means coming together. So in this instance, a compound set will focus on the same muscle group, but it might have 2 different exercises back to back that allow it to promote muscle fatigue, although fatigue isn't everything, okay? But this will help induce hypertrophy, muscle gain, and push the muscle beyond its regular threshold. Now, there are other things we've got to consider: mechanical tension. We've got to consider muscle. We've got to consider time under tension. We've got to consider load. There are things that we must think about when we talk about the 3 principles of hypertrophy. But in compound sets specifically, this is where we're hitting one muscle group with 2 different exercises to really induce muscle hypertrophy. The next one, pyramid sets. Now, we can approach this in 2 different ways. I want you to think about this like your workout is like a musical crescendo. We start soft and we get louder and louder, and then we maybe go soft again. Equally, there are a number of different methods that we can use with pyramid sets. We can start light, increase the weight, and decrease the reps as we start increasing up. Alternatively, that will be called an ascending pyramid, but alternatively, we might start heavy. So I might hit 100 kilograms on the bench press for 2 reps, go 90 kilos for 4, 80 kilos for 6, 70 kilos for 8, etc., etc. And that's called a descending pyramid. The goal with this is it gives a mix of endurance and strength within that single exercise. But it can be a really cool way for you to induce more muscle fatigue, but also it can be quite exciting. This is something we can do with a number of different movements. We can do it with bench, do it with squat, do it with deadlift, you can do it with dumbbells, you can do it with any variation of exercise. I would normally leave it with the bigger lifts personally, but it's a really cool way. And if we wanted to do a descending pyramid where we started heavy, this could be good to induce more strength. If we started ascending, it could be good to induce more endurance, strength endurance. So there's a couple of ways we can play around with these variables to help us get the adaptation we want. Then we have the fifth one. And again, this isn't an exhausted list, but we have something called drop sets. Now, this is like the sunrise party for your muscles that you didn't know they needed. But I'm going to explain to you why they might need them. Drop sets is a great tool, a really, really good tool for hypertrophy for a number of different reasons. For me personally, I've used them to my advantage, and I've also overdone it sometimes with drop sets. But it's when a muscle reaches failure with a specific weight, we would then reduce the weight down and continue on with that set. Let's take an example. We use the bench press. I don't know why I keep using the bench press, but the bench press is a great exercise to talk about. Let's say we start with 100 kilos of 10 repetitions on the bench press. Brilliant. I've done 10 reps at 100. And I'm really starting to see some technical breakdown. This is another conversation that we can discuss. We talk about mechanical fatigue or technical fatigue. We can talk about the technique breaking down as we hit that 7th, 8th, 9th, that 10th rep, starting to feel a bit of change. I'll drop 20 kilos off the bar, go to 70 or 80 kilos. And I'll continue with that set until I can get as many repetitions as possible. Now, this is like squeezing every last bit of juice that the muscle has, ensuring that we can get maximum muscle fiber recruitment. But it's really important to note here, these can be quite fatiguing. Okay, and normally I have seen them be used in a different variety. I've seen them being used in the start of a session where we're trying to really promote fatigue early on. And I've also seen them at the end of a session where we're trying to kind of work on some technical stuff too. This is great for beginners. We could do some drop sets at the end just to make sure we're getting that little bit of stimulus that we need and we're getting that after that adaptation that we want to try and chase, especially when we're talking about promoting muscle hypertrophy. So drop sets is a great tool that you can use. And this, again, can work on any exercise. You could do drop sets on dumbbell lateral raises if you really wanted to. You could do it on cable lateral. You could do it on crucifix lateral raises. You could do it on bicep curls if you wanted to. It's just a play around with program. Remember, we're talking about the overarching principle, not the specifics today. Next one, circuit-based training. Now, circuit-based, I've seen this done quite well in the functional bodybuilding side of life. And again, when we look at conjugate and concurrent training methodology, something that we'll talk about later on in a different podcast, concurrent and conjugate training methodology uses this really well, where they might go 3 to 5 rounds of specific exercises, jumping from one to another with minimal rest, promoting heart rate or promoting cardiovascular health, but also increasing our heart rate alongside muscular endurance. Now, this could be really cool for those that want to get in and out of the gym, but also want that little bit of cardiovascular push as well. Like, we don't have to just go out and run all the time. We don't have to just cut. And by the way, cardiovascular and cardiometabolic health is vital. It's so important. We need to, those primal movements are big. Like we really need to work on those things about running. We need to understand our cardiovascular health. We need to train it that way. But adding circuit-based training can help you do that, because it's like killing 2 birds with a 1 stone approach, combining a bit of strength training or hypertrophy-based work alongside an aerobic component where we're keeping the heart rate and we're promoting cardiovascular health as well. So there's something to consider with circuit-based training. And like I said, in the functional bodybuilding concurrent and conjugate world, it's really cool because we might have 3 to 5 rounds, and we might turn around and let's say we're targeting the muscles in and around the shoulder girdle and the chest. We might turn around and go, right, okay, maybe all the upper back, the upper portion. We're going to go deficit push-ups, followed by rope face pulls, followed by something along the lines of a dumbbell floor press, followed by banded face pull aparts. That could be a really unique way of us getting after things. Really unique way for us to get after doing some upper body focused or upper third portion of our chest and our back and our shoulders. That is just an example there, guys. It's definitely not one that I'd recommend, but something to consider. So we then move into something called the split routine and the full body routine. Now, there's arguments to be had for both of here. I am not an advocate of doing a single muscle in a single session. And the main reason for that is just because I don't feel like you can get the most. So some people it works. If you like going in just doing chest one day, arms the next day, blah, blah, blah. But if your goal is to promote muscle and you want to improve your composition, I would suggest that maybe doing 2 sessions where the muscles are targeted twice per week is probably going to be a little bit better over time. You could start with 1 muscle group per week. That's fine. But a full body routine for me is a more holistic approach that gets us hitting all of those major muscle groups more regularly and they get more attention. But let's talk about the split routine. This is where we target a specific muscle group and it can really allow for a detailed specific workout. This might be really useful, and I've seen maybe in my old bodybuilding days, this was really useful when we were trying to promote a very specific change in things like rounding of the shoulders, when we're trying to target some portion of the upper traps, and we're trying to develop that Christmas tree look down the lower part of the back. These things where physique is a big part of it can provide a good route for us to hit a split routine. Especially beneficial for those of you that can't hit the gym every day. You might want a bit more of, these are great for people that can hit the gym every day, but the full body routine are good for people that can't hit the gym every day. So if you're somebody that has the time available and you can do 6 sessions a week, brilliant, fantastic. You could go chest and back, you could go shoulders and legs, you could then come back around and do core and some other arm stuff. You could do it all and then repeat that cycle for a second time through. There are a number of different ways to do this. It's been a long time since I've done the split routine, but it can work if you can spend the session doing things like that and allowing the muscle groups to rest and recover in between what you're going after. So not something I would recommend for somebody that's time conscious, but maybe better if you do have the time available. We then hit the full body routine. So the full body routine, it is, like I've said, that holistic approach. We can hit all of the major muscle groups and ensure we hit all of those muscle groups consistently throughout the week. So they're getting a little bit of stimulus. We might go, I'm going to do 2 chest exercises on the Monday, 2 on the Wednesday and 2 on the Friday. And then we can mix up other exercises in and amongst that as well to target areas that we want to. So like I've said, this is somebody who doesn't have that time to go into the gym 6 days a week. Maybe it's looking at a 3 or 4 day a week. And this is really where we use full body conjugate and concurrent training methodology to really push that stimulus too. And then another one that a lot of people don't consider is something called accommodating resistance. Now, accommodating resistance it's about adding a little bit of flair to your program with chains and bands. Now, if you do not know how to use these, I would absolutely recommend that you don't start here. That's not where you should start. I would always start with, okay, let's look at single, multiple, agonist, antagonist, some compound and drop sets, pyramid sets, but I would leave accommodating resistance or get some advice and support from a coach or a trainer that knows about how to use accommodating resistance to their advantage for you. Okay. The concept here is progressive resistance. So as you lift through a movement, bands stretch and it adds more resistance where you're naturally strongest. Like at the top of a squat, for example, I could pin a band at the top of the squat where I'm naturally strongest. There could be even more resistance, making it harder. And I have to accommodate by getting over that resistance. The same with chains. Chains can be really challenging too, where we are challenging the muscles consistently throughout a full range of motion. So in a back squat, we're being challenged all the way through the top, all the way down to the bottom, right as we hit the bottom of the squat. The same again then applies when we're coming back up through. The chains are adding resistance to it all the way through. And actually, the chains are getting heavier and heavier because they're not being held up by the floor. So chains and bands is a really positive way, and we can use this in a number of different methods as well. We can use it on lower upper body movements. There are so many different ways that an accommodating resistance with chains and bands can be utilized. So guys, ladies, gentlemen, everybody out there, I hope that was useful, where we just ran through some of the training methodology and the programming principles that you can use when it comes to you challenging yourself more. This is a roadmap for you to utilize. It's not the be all and end all. There are so many things in summary that you can go through with single, multiple sets, agonist, antagonist, compound, pyramid sets, drop sets, circuit training, a split or full body routine, accommodating resistance. There's so many different things that you can use in your training program to keep that stimulus. But remember, the best workout for you is one that you enjoy. It's physically and mentally stimulating. It keeps you hooked. If you're going to go in and do too much and you're not interested and you hate it, it's probably not going to be something that you can continue to do. And it's about pushing you to be better. And it's using these methodologies and these principles that can really help you understand programming even more. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that has been an enjoyable one. As always, if you've got any questions, any queries at all, please do drop me a message over on our social media handles. I'd love nothing more than if you could please leave a review on the podcast. It really does help this channel, whether you're on the podcast, watching this on YouTube as well. I want to just thank you and all of the listeners out there that have tuned in, listened to me talk about this, or watched me for the past 20 odd minutes talk about programming principles. I look forward to seeing you in episode 45, where we dive deeper again and go through even more training philosophy and even more exercise mechanics and exercise principles. But I look forward to seeing you all and speaking to you all very, very soon. Take care.